Start with the chapter number 12, Ecosystem of Biology, class 12. Ncert reading. Yes, an ecosystem can be visualized as a functional unit of nature where living organisms interact among themselves and also with the surrounding physical environment. Ecosystem varies greatly in size from a small pond to a large forest or a sea. Many ecologists regard the entire biosphere as a global ecosystem, as a composite of all local ecosystems on Earth. Since this system is too much big and complex to be studied at one time, it is convenient to divide it into two basic categories, namely terrestrial and aquatic. Yes, forest, grassland, yes, and desert, they are all some examples of terrestrial ecosystem. Pond, lake, wetland, river, estuary, and are some of the examples of aquatic ecosystem. Clear? And ecosystems can be artificial and natural and man-made. Man-made ecosystems are what? Like agricultural fields. Yes, crop fields and aquarium may also be regarded as man-made ecosystem. We will first look at the structure of the ecosystem in order to appreciate the input transfer of energy, yes, and the output degradation, energy loss. We will look at the relationship cycle chains that are created as a result of these energy flows within the system and their interrelationship. Yes, now moving ahead. Ecosystem structure and function. In earlier classes, you have looked at various components of the environment, abiotic and biotic. You studied how the individual biotic and abiotic factors affected each other and their surrounding. Let us look at these components in a more integrated manner and see how the flow of energy takes place within these components of the ecosystem. Interaction of biotic and abiotic components result in a physical structure that is a characteristic for each type of ecosystem. Identification and enumeration of plant and animal species of an ecosystem gives its species composition. Vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels is called stratification. Very important line. Vertical distribution of different species occupying different level is called stratification. For example, trees occupy the top vertical strata at the layer of a forest. Shrubs, the second, herbs and grasses occupy the bottom layer. The components of the ecosystem are seen as the function as a unit. And when you consider the following aspects: productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycling. Yes. Moving ahead, to understand the ethos of an ecosystem, let us take a small pond as an example. Yes, this is fairly self-sustainable unit and rather simple example that explain even the complex interaction that exists in an aquatic ecosystem. A pond is a shallow water body in which all the above mentioned four basic components of an ecosystem are well exhibited. The abiotic component is a water with all the dissolved inorganic and organic substances and the rich soil deposit at the bottom of the pond. The solar input, the cycle of temperature, daylight, and other climatic conditions regulate the rate of function of the entire pond. Yes. Autotrophic components include the phytoplankton, some algae, and the floating submerged marginal plants found at the edges. The consumers are represented by zooplanktons, the free-swimming and bottom-dwelling forms. The decomposers are the fungi, bacteria, and flagellates, especially abundant in the bottom of the pond. This system performs all the functions of any ecosystem and of the biosphere as a whole. That is a conversion of inorganic material with the help of a radiant energy of the sun by autotrophs, consumptions of the autotrophs by heterotrophs, decomposition and mineralization of the dead matter to release them back for reuse by autotroph. These events are repeated over and over again. There is a unidirectional movement of energy towards a higher tropic level and its dissipation and loss as heat to the environment. Next is productivity. Constant input of solar energy is a basic requirement for any ecosystem to function and sustain. Primary production is defined as biomass or organic matter produced per unit area over a time period by plants doing photosynthesis. It is expressed in terms of weight, gram per meter square, or in energy, kcal per meter square. A rate of biomass production is called productivity. It is expressed in terms of gram per meter square per year. Yes, and or kilocalorie per meter square, yes, per year. To compare the productivity of different ecosystem, it can be divided into gross productivity, gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. And you need to remember the formula is that gross primary productivity minus respiration losses gives you what? Net primary productivity. Yes, the gross primary productivity is the rate of production of organic matter during photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, a considerable amount of gross primary productivity is utilized by plants in respiration. Gross productivity minus respiration losses is net primary productivity. This is the formula. Net primary productivity is available biomass for the consumption to heterotrophs. Secondary productivity is defined as the rate of formation of new organic matter by consumers. Primary productivity depends on the plant species inhabiting a particular area. It also depends on a variety of environmental factors. Yes, availability of nutrients and photosynthetic capacity of plants. Therefore, it varies in different types of ecosystem. The annual net primary productivity of the whole biosphere is approximately 170 billion tons dry weight of organic matter. Of this, despite occupying about 70% of the surface, the productivity of the oceans are only 55 billion tons. Can you tell me why? This is because the penetration of light is less in oceans. And the second thing is what? Second thing is lack of some nutrients. Yes. Okay, the next is decomposition. Let me change the color. Let us take yellow one. You may have heard of earthworm being referred to as a farmer's friend. This is so because they help in breakdown of complex organic matter as well as loosening of the soil. Similarly, decomposers break down the complex organic matter into inorganic substances like carbon dioxide, water, and nutrients, and the process is called decomposition. Dead plant remains such as leaves, bark, flowers, and dead remains of animals, including facial matter, constitute detritus, which is the raw material for decomposition. The important step in the process of decomposition, they are fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, humidification, and mineralization. Detritivores, example earthworm, break down the detritus into small particles. This process is called fragmentation. By the process of leaching water-soluble inorganic nutrients, they go down into the soil horizon and get precipitated as unavailable salts. Bacterial and fungal enzymes degrade detritus into a simpler inorganic substances. This process is called catabolism. It is important to note that all the above steps in decomposition operate simultaneously on the detritus. Humidification and mineralization occur during decomposition in the soil. Humidification leads to, look at this diagram, tree grows in the soil. Yes, some are eaten by insects and some part goes into the detritus food chain. Yes, this is how. Okay, just see the diagram. This is your homework. Due to the accumulation of dark colored amorphous substance called humus that is highly resistant to microbial action and undergoes decomposition at an extremely slow rate. Being colloidal in nature, it serves as a reservoir of nutrients. The humus is further degraded by some microbes and release of inorganic nutrients occur by the process known as mineralization. Decomposition is largely an oxygen requiring process. It is an oxygen requiring process. The rate of decomposition is controlled by chemical composition of detritus and climatic factors. In a particular climatic condition, the decomposition rate is slower if detritus is rich in lignin and chitin, and quicker if detritus is rich in nitrogen and water-soluble substances like sugar. Temperature and soil moisture are the important factors, climatic factors that regulate decomposition through their effects on the activities of soil microbes. Warm and moist environment favor decomposition, whereas low temperature and anaerobiasis inhibit decomposition, resulting in build up of organic materials. Moving ahead, energy flow. Except for the deep sea hydrothermal ecosystem, sun is the only source of energy for all the ecosystem on earth. Of incident solar radiation, less than 50% is photosynthetically active radiation. Less than 50%. We know that plants and photosynthetic bacteria fix the sun's radiant energy to make food from simple inorganic materials. Yes, plants capture only 2 to 10% of power, photosynthetically active radiation. This amount of energy sustains the entire living world. So it is very important to know how the solar energy captured by the plant flows through different organisms of an ecosystem. All the organisms are dependent for their food on producers either directly or indirectly. So you find unidirectional flow of energy from the sun to producers to consumers. Yes. Now, further ecosystem are not exempt from second law of thermodynamics. They need a constant supply of energy to synthesize molecules they require to counteract the universal tendency towards decreasing disorderliness. The green plant and ecosystem, they are called producers. In a terrestrial ecosystem, major producers are herbaceous and woody plants. Likewise, producers in an aquatic ecosystem, there are various species like phytoplankton, algae and higher plants. You have read about the food chains and webs that exist in nature. Starting from the plant, food chains or rather webs are formed such that an animal feeds on a plant or on another animal, and in turn is a food for another. The chain or web formed because of this interdependency, that is called the food web, yes, and no energy that is trapped into an organism remains in it forever. The energy trapped by the producer hence is either passed to a consumer or the organism die. Death of organism is the beginning of what? Detritus food chain. All animals depend on plants for their food needs. They are hence called consumers and also heterotrophs. If they feed on the producers, the plants, they are primary consumers. If the animal eats other animal which in turn eats plants, they are secondary consumer. Likewise, you could have tertiary consumers too. Obviously, the primary consumer will be herbivores. So some common herbivores are insects, birds, mammals, and mammals, yes, in terrestrial ecosystem, and mollusks in important line mollusks in aquatic ecosystem. Insects, birds and mammals in terrestrial ecosystem, they are what? Primary consumers. And mollusks in aquatic ecosystem. Consumers that feed on these herbivores are carnivores, or more correctly primary carnivores. Those secondary consumers, those animals that depend on the primary carnivores for food, are labeled secondary carnivores. A simple grazing food chain is depicted below. Grass eaten by goat eaten by man. Yes, this is all. Now moving ahead. Detritus food chain begins with the dead organic matter. It is made up of decomposers, which are heterotrophic organisms, mainly fungi and bacteria. They meet their energy and nutrient requirements by degrading dead organic matter or detritus. These are known as what? Saprotrophs. Decomposers secrete digestive enzymes that break down dead and waste material into simple inorganic material, which is subsequently absorbed by them. In an aquatic ecosystem, grazing food chain is a major conduit of energy flow, and as against this, in a terrestrial ecosystem, a much larger fraction of energy flows through detritus food chain than through grazing food chain. Detritus food chain may be connected with grazing food chain at some level. Some of the organisms of DFC are prey to GFC. What is GFC and what is DFC? Tell me in the comment box. In a natural ecosystem, some animals like cockroaches, crows, etc. are omnivores. These natural interconnection of food chains make it a food web. How would you classify human beings? Organisms occupy a place in a natural surroundings or in a community according to the feeding relationship with the other organism. Based on the source of their nutrition, of food organisms occupy a specific place in food chain, that is trophic level. Producers belong to first trophic level, herbivores to the second, and carnivores to the third. Yes, this is the diagram that is depicting these trophic levels. First trophic level, producers, second herbivores, carnivores, then top carnivores. Wait. Producers, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. Likewise, producer, primary consumer, yes, primary carnivore, secondary carnivore, like this. Okay, now moving ahead to the next is the important point to note is that amount of energy decreases at the successive trophic levels. When any organism dies, it is converted to detritus or dead mass. Wait, it is loading. Yes, it is converted into detritus or dead mass. Yes, that serves as energy source for decomposer. Organism at each trophic level depends on those at the lower trophic level for the energy demand. Each trophic level has a certain mass of living material at a particular time, that is standing crop. The standing crop is measured as a mass of living organism, biomass, or the number in a unity. The biomass of a species is expressed in terms of fresh weight or dry weight. Yes, measurement in dry weight is more accurate. The number of trophic level in a grazing food chain is restricted as the transfer of energy follows a 10% law, that only 10% of the energy is transferred to each trophic level from the lower trophic level. Yes. Okay. In nature, it is possible to have so many levels: producer, herbivore, primary carnivore, secondary carnivore, in the grazing food chain. Look, let me tell you this. If you have 100,000 joule of energy is here. आपका 10% लॉ यूज़ होगा जहाँ यहाँ पर 10% एनर्जी विल बी ट्रांसफर टू दिस ओनली 10% एनर्जी 10% ऑफ 1000 इज़ 100 जाउल यहाँ पर एंड ओनली 10% अगेन 10 जाउल दिस ट्रॉपिक लेवल पर होगा यस एंड अगेन दिस ट्रॉपिक लेवल ये इस ट्रॉपिक लेवल पर कितनी एनर्जी जाएगी यस 10% ऑफ दिस दैट इज़ 1 जाउल. This is how 10% law is followed. I hope you understand it. Do you understand it? Okay. Now moving ahead, this is 10% energy law. Here 10% energy goes to the first tropic level and some is loosened as heat. Again 10% heat, 10% heat, 10% heat. This is now ecological pyramids. You must be familiar with the shape of a pyramid. The base of a pyramid is broad and it narrows towards the apex. One gets a similar shape whether you express the food or energy relationship between the organisms. At different topic level, this relationship is expressed in terms of number, biomass, energy, or many more. Energy or number, yes. And one thing, let me tell you that pyramid of energy is never inverted. It is always upright. Yes, base of each pyramid represent producer, first tropic level, while apex present tertiary or top level consumer. 3 ecological pyramids are pyramid of number, biomass, pyramid of energy. Yes, you can see here pyramid of this number. ठीक है एंड यहाँ पर हमारा है pyramid of biomass. pyramid of biomass यहाँ पर तो upright है लेकिन in C the pyramid of biomass is inverted like this. Yes, look this biomass in the sea. Phytoplanktons, then zooplanktons. Yes, okay, the next is yes, any calculation of energy content, biomass or number, any calculation of energy content, biomass or number has to include all organism at that tropic level. No generalization we make will be true if we take only a few individuals at any tropic level into account. Also, a given organism may occupy more than one tropic level. Example is more than one tropic level simultaneously. One must remember that a tropic level represents a functional level, not a species as such. Tropic level is a functional level, not a species level. Yes, a given species may occupy more than one tropic level in the same ecosystem at the same time. For example, a sparrow is a primary consumer when it eats seed, fruit, peas, and a secondary consumer when it eats insects or worms. In most ecosystems, all pyramids of number, of energy, and biomass are upright. Producers are more in number, biomass and biomass than herbivore. Herbivore are more in number and biomass than carnivore. Also, energy at a lower tropic level is always more than higher level. There are exceptions to this generalization. If you were to count the number of insects feeding on a big tree, what kind of pyramid you will get? Now add an estimate to the number of small birds depending on the insect. Yes, as also the number of larger birds eating the smaller will be more. The pyramid of biomass in sea is generally inverted because biomass of fishes far exceeds that of a phytoplankton. Pyramid of energy, यहाँ पर आप फिशेस, स्मॉल फिशेस भी लिख सकते हैं और जू प्लैंक्टन्स भी. यस, ओके. pyramid of energy can never be inverted because when energy flows, it follows 10% law. Yes, some energy is always lost as heat at each step. Each bar in the energy pyramid indicates the amount of energy present at each tropic level in a given time. However, there are certain limitations of ecological pyramid, such as it does not take into account the same species belonging to 2 or more tropic level. It assumes a simple food chain, something that almost never exists in nature. It does not accommodate a food web. Moreover, saprophytes are not given any place in ecological pyramids, even though they play a vital role in ecosystem. This is all your chapter. We are done with it.